Greetings and welcome to my review series about anime and video games where I have no problem spoiling anything. Keep that in mind and enjoy the review. Ready at Dawn's first big console game is upon us. I don't really know the developer. I mean, I played Daxter on the PSP when I bought it some years ago, but I didn't finish the game. Thought it was okay, but didn't really play that much of it, so the studio's name doesn't really mean much to me, and I was very apprehensive about the final product when I first heard about it because it looked just like Gears of War set in London, so I wasn't too excited and I ignored most of the hype. I'm glad that I did because the game was Gears of War in London, pretty much, but that's not a negative thing, in my opinion at least. Now this game got torn to shreds in the reviews, like really low scores, and the public opinion on it is sort of bad, but I don't really agree with that. I thought it was a pretty fun game. I have no problems with the length of the game, and the QTEs, while they can be a pain in a game when they're done poorly, and in this game, sometimes they are, but this is no Resident Evil 6 where the QTEs completely ruin the game. It was perfectly fine. Although, bear in mind, I did like Heavenly Sword, and that game was like 4 hours long. The game opens with our hero, Sir Galahad, being tortured. You don't know why at first, but the game eventually wraps around and you find out what's going on, and the scene makes perfect sense when it's in full context. At first I was thinking that maybe he got turned into a werewolf and they were like the Order was torturing him because he became a monster or something like that, but that turns out not to be the case, thankfully. Galahad is a member of the Order of Knights. Each one is named after one of King Arthur's knights, one of his Round Table knights. So the way the structure goes, as soon as one of the knights dies, someone else takes their place, and that one becomes a member of the Order. So the Order itself, like the main council, is a bunch of immortal guys who drink this holy water, or this dark water, I don't know what you really would call it, that grants them immortality. It automatically heals any injury that they have, so these characters can more or less live forever, but if a character dies, they die permanently. So every time someone dies, a new guy takes his place. He takes on the name of the former fallen knight and gets his magical holy water, and he becomes a member of the Order. Although the Order does have regular human beings who just kind of, I guess some of them are like in an apprentice role, and other ones that are just kind of there helping things out, kind of flesh out the ranks. Although this was kind of confusing in the game because there are some characters, like your main character for example, he has like 3 different names. They'll call him Galahad, they'll call him Gray, I think he has a first name, sometimes they'll call him that, and there are other characters that really confused me when I was playing, like, who are they talking about? You kind of get it in context, but it would have been better, I feel, if they just called each character by their official name in the Order. But you know what, it builds the world, I suppose. So the Order's job essentially is to fight supernatural foes and things that the regular government and police can't handle. During the game, they pretty much only mention werewolves, or lycans as they're called, but there are other supernatural creatures that they hint at, but this game pretty much just focuses on werewolf and human interactions. So the story kicks off in London where there are a bunch of terrorist attacks going on. Our heroes don't really know why or how, but they do know that werewolves are involved. So they're trying to look into it, but the officials at the Order are saying, hey, leave this alone, let the police handle it. But they have a gut feeling, so they start going and looking into it, and then like the whole mystery and plot twists and turns and double crosses and back crosses and all this kind of crosses happen. You kind of, more or less, nothing amazing or unique happens in here, but I think it's told pretty well, and I enjoyed the story overall. The graphics of this game are pretty amazing. At first, I didn't really like the black bars on the top of the bottom of the screen, but you get used to them after a while. I mean, the game would be better if they weren't there, but they don't really, after about an hour or so, they don't really detract from the experience. Although the game would be better, I feel, if you had more environment, more real estate to run around and see enemies and whatnot, but the gameplay doesn't really suffer because of it. And the game is amazing looking. The attention to detail is pretty fantastic, although it's both good and bad. It's good because you'll see a lot of things and there's really high detail, and occasionally you'll be wowed. Like this one part in the game where you're going down a zeppelin and you can see the cloth bending and folding and waving in the wind, and it's like very, very impressive. I had to stop. I thought it was a cutscene at first. I'm like, oh no, I'm playing this. So yeah. But there are other parts in the game where your character will pick up a gun and you have to rotate the gun left and right, and it's like, the first time you do it, okay, but every single time you get a new weapon or a new item, having him like rotate the gun, look at all the details, like, I don't care, you're wasting my time, just give me the gun, give me the apple, give me the paper or whatever, and just let me go. But there aren't really very many negative things I can say about the game visually. You know, it holds up all the way throughout. It's a pretty good looking game. I also found the gameplay to be pretty satisfying. You get a bunch of guns and whatnot, but it's more or less a non-issue. This is a fairly standard third-person shooter. You know, think Gears of War. You know, run down the corridor, shoot, hide behind cover. There's really nothing amazing or special about the game, which I guess you can knock the game for, but personally, I don't care. The game is good. The game is good. I don't really need it to do anything new or wow me, although I would prefer if it did. The only really bad things about the game are that it has quick timer events, or QTEs as they're called. I'm really not opposed to their inclusion as a whole. Sometimes it works in games. I was a big fan of the first God of War, which had QTEs, but an unforgivable sin in game design to me are instant fail states. And when you couple instant fail states with quick timer events, your game loses a lot of points. I mean, Resident Evil 6, which I think I mentioned earlier, was so painful to play. And that was a big part of it, having to wiggle on your sticks and smash your buttons, all the crap, like over and over again. It just really brought the game down. Fortunately, the order isn't that bad. There are a couple of segments, maybe 2 or 3 stealth segments in the game, which have instant fail states if the guard sees you, but that's more or less it. Some of the QTEs, I suppose you would call them, have fail states, although most of the time you won't encounter them since you're just, you know, playing the game. It says push this, you push that. But there was like one or two instances, one in particular where a werewolf is trying to kill one of your teammates, and I didn't realize that this was like a timed event, so my teammate died like 3 times. I was kind of like, oh god, oh no. And there was another part, I think in the final battle, well, I wasn't smashing on my X button hard enough, so I died and had to do the whole fight, or half the fight over again. That was kind of like an eye roll, but it wasn't bad enough to make me dislike the game. The only really other thing I have to say about combat is like a personal pet peeve of mine. I really like to do melee combat in games, even if it's a third-person shooter. I like to occasionally just run in and like hit the dude with my gun, or with Gears of War, you know, my chainsaw gun. But you can't do that in this game. You can melee guys when you get up close to them, but the game is designed in such a way where if you try and run in, you're gonna get shot by like 4 other dudes in the environment, so it's not really cost effective, so you're more or less stuck just shooting stuff, and that's not the most exciting thing to do. So it's a bit of a bummer, but I didn't really feel that it detracted from the game enough to subtract any points from it. 1 or 2 random things I'd like to mention, kind of personal things to me that might not matter to you, is that this game passes the Metal Gear Solid 2 test. If you remember that game, assuming you played it, there's like this tanker mission which they had a demo of, and you could like destroy watermelons and flour and shoot bottles and roll down the stairs and all this kind of crazy stuff. And this game kind of passes what I personally call the Metal Gear Solid 2 test, and that you can shoot bottles, pots, pans, and lots of things in the environment. Some things are invincible, but I was very pleased with the amount of bottles and whatnot that you can break. So I give it a thumbs up on that. I spent like one part of the game where you pass through a pottery workshop, and I just like shot all of the different pottery, and there was like another part where you passed through a kitchen, and I stopped in the middle of the gunfight. Well, I cleared out the room, and I stopped and just shot every pan off the wall that was like hanging down, and all the pans that are on the shelves and whatnot. You know, thumbs up. I really appreciate that. And the other thing I like to mention are the dudes in armor. They're a real pain. Look out for those guys. There was like one part where I was kind of getting a little frustrated, a little frustrated. Then I figured out, oh, I can just kind of do this and cheese it. But yeah, those are 2 things I just like to point out. You know, nothing serious, but I thought they were worth mentioning, at least to me personally. So in closing, The Order is a game that a lot of people hate, but I liked it. I don't really understand the hate that it gets. You know, people are complaining about how long it is. I think the whole $1 per hour or $2 per hour measurement some people like to put out is bullshit. If a game is good, a game is good. You know, it's worth your money if you spend your money and you feel satisfied with the purchase. It doesn't matter if the game is 120 hours long or 2 hours long. You know, I guess personally I wouldn't spend $60 for a 2-hour game, but if the game was amazing, maybe I would. So anyway, I thought the game was fine. I think it's somewhere around 6 hours I clocked in, and I enjoyed my experience. And the game, story-wise, while nothing amazing, is pretty well told, and it ends with a bang. I'm really looking forward to the sequel if it gets made. I have no idea how well this game sold or didn't sell, so hopefully it did well enough. So I would recommend it. You know, maybe if you're kind of the $1 per hour value type person, you wouldn't pick it up $60, but you should at least rent it or play it eventually at some point in time, because it's a pretty good game, worth the playthrough. Well, that's about all I have to say about the order. So anyways, thanks for watching my review, and remember, be excellent to each other.